What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode with AB Investments. Unfortunately, this is like probably the fifth time of me trying to upload this video, and I keep bringing it back down because YouTube is not uploading it for some reason. Um, Maybe because it's very dangerous or something for them. But anyways, if you're watching this, that means odds are the video finally uploaded, and I'm glad. And first of all, let me say thank you, big thanks to Cam and basically CS Trades 101 and the whole entire Wolf Pack. I've had a blast today when I joined their live. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, guys. And for those of you who joined today to the AB Investments channel, welcome to your other home away from your other home as well. So this is another base for you. Thank you so much again for joining, and let's dive right into this important video that I promised everyone to make. This is about the shorting and the end game. Just so you guys would understand first, how shorting works is that there's a couple different types of shorting. There's long-term shorting, and obviously there's short-term shorting. And the way that works is when an entity wants to short the stock, basically a hedge fund, it goes to a broker, approaches a broker, and borrows the shares from that broker. They make an agreement, and they put in the cash required and the levels required as far as margin, so that they make sure the broker can make sure that their part is covered in case that other entity that's approaching them defaults, or the price starts surging on the stock, and they're not going to just keep their pants down and say, oh, we need our shares back. And if the other company if they never made any previous contract, and they don't keep certain amounts of money in that account as well, then the broker always takes the hit. Now, when that entity gets those shares, and we're going to use AMC as an example here, it sells it. Let's say it borrowed those shares at 50 or 60, and it dumps those shares on the market in the pursuit or hope that the shares and the price of the stock drops. When the price starts dropping, that shorting entity is already in the green from the second it starts dropping. The only time they get afraid or get screwed is when the price starts surging above the levels they started shorting the stock at. Now, if the stock flies, the price of the stock flies above those levels, majority of or in that hedge fund's position, then they'll get a margin call after a certain percent, and then they'll get liquidated if it continues to surge more. The crazy part is they need shares to close out their position, because they sold those shares already short on the market. So they need to go back on the market to repurchase shares to give it back to the entity that they borrowed it from, the broker that they borrowed it from. If there's no shares on the market, this is where the buy and hold mindset becomes important. This is why it's so important, that why people saying, and all influencers are pushing out the idea of buy and hold. It's because when that entity that shorted the stock from the get-go needs to come back on the market to rebuy those shares, doesn't matter at what price, are the shares available? Because if they're not, that's what will squeeze the price to constantly keep surging until shares are existent on the market. When people start selling or dumping, that's when you start ticking down the idea of, or the countdown of the short squeeze will be over. Because when there are shares on the market available for these entities to buy back, again, doesn't matter what the price is, then they will scoop those by force. It's not up to them whether they want to wait or not. Once they get margined and it's over, and they're forced to buy those shares back to give them back to the entity they borrowed it from, or the broker they borrowed it from, they will have to do so. If there are no shares, the price will continuously keep surging to biblical numbers, if must be, until there are shares available for them to purchase, so that they can return to the broker that they borrowed it from. Now, what these guys have been doing is over a year and a half, they've been getting the price to surge and dump. And I'll tell you how they've been doing that. They let the price first get a cushion, which was like in the case of GME or AMC, has been, see, AMC 73, 74, GameStop in the 480s. And when that gave them enough cushion, it was so easy to short a stock at those high levels, because at that point, they even can make sure that whatever price they shorted at. So if they short AMC at 73 and the price now is in the teens, guess what? When they come back to close their short position to collect profits and do this again over the whole entire year and a half we've been in this madness, they buy back in at the low price, and now they shorted at 7.3. They close their position down in the teens, and when they close their positions, that means they have to buy back shares at a lower price. Now, all the way from 73 to down here, this whole gray area in between, that's pure profit to that shorting hedge fund. That's how they make their profit. Now, when they buy back at a lesser price, of course, they have to do that so they could get the shares they initially borrowed from the broker. They get them back, return them to the broker, close the contract, they're good. And now, obviously, when they buy back at a lower price, you will see a sudden surge in price. This is very, very, very possibly what happened 2 weeks ago when we had a sudden surge from the bottom teens all the way up to 33, 34. And that's because some short covering on short-term shorts were happening because they wanted to close out positions to collect profits. Now, when that happens, guess what that opens the door for? More shorting opportunity, because it doesn't become profitable for them when the stock is so low at the 12s and the 13s and the 11s and the 14s. There's no room for them to down the stock lower to. You see what I'm saying, guys? So like when this price is already at the 13s and the 14s, the reason why it's always been bouncing back is not because no technical analysis or any of that stuff. As much respect I have for technical analysis, guys, and I do some of it, but I look at the overall bigger picture. In this case, there's no more space for them or room to short, so they need more cushion so that they can have more space to collect more profits. It needs to be more lucrative for them. The higher it is, the more lucrative it is for them, because the bigger the short. Now, every time it goes down there, somebody closes out their position. That means they're buying back a big block just to close out their position. Don't worry, that doesn't mean they lost. No, they already incorporated that. They shorted it from up here, and now they're buying back down here. And they stand basically that way. They close out their position. The broker that lent them the shares get their shares back. And the shorting entity keeps all this between this point and this point down here where they bought back at. All that is profit that they take. And now when they bought back at a lower price, the price obviously surges back up because there's some buying pressure, blocks of buying pressure. The price surges again. And now when it's at the 30s again or the 40s, guess what? It opens more opportunities for another shorting situation, and now that's why you see us back in the 17s. And I wouldn't be surprised if we drop again to the 14 or the $13 level, and that's when I would expect another push. Now, will it be the next one? Will be the squeeze officially? I don't know. But one thing AB will leave you with this now is with you understanding what I just shared with you. I'm not a financial advisor, but if you understood everything that I just said, please, guys, put it in the comment section because I can re-elaborate on it more. But if you understood exactly what I just said, you would totally understand what you have to possibly do next so that you can be on the side of profiting as well, just like they are. Just like they're playing the system, we are as well. Now, AB also have another cynical video that soon, I don't know if people want to know the answer to it because it's a question also no one is looking at. I have checked and looked around, and I haven't seen anyone cover that, at least to the best of my knowledge. If people want to know this or this question, if they want to know what the question is first, and if they have enough courage to know the answer to it, please put it down in the comment section, and on the next live, I will actually dive deep into that because it's a very, very, very cynical thing, and if it is true, if it comes to fruition as I see it, then we have something of a strategy to talk about. We have a big, big, big thing to talk about. Now, the end game, as I said, when it comes to that moment of them having to cover and they get margined, and that's it. This is the time. This is Moaz time. Remember, holding means there are no shares on the market, which means these entities cannot have access to shares, but they're still forced to buy shares back. They have to. So what naturally happens as the price continues to surge. So if you're out there, and again, AB is not advising anyone to buy or sell at whatever price or hold for whatever price, but if you have any dream or hope for high brackets or high numbers, whether 3 digits, 4 digits, 5 digits, whatever you want, 6 digits, the only thing that could make that possible is the lack of shares being on the market. So when it's MOAS time, believe it or not, we do not need high volume, because the more volume, that means these entities will have access. This is AB's humble opinion. Anybody could have their own opinion, but this is AB's experience, and AB is telling you what he thinks here. Hopefully it makes some sense to you as well. So when it's MOAS time, we cannot have shares available on the block or on the market for these entities to buy back, to close their positions. Because if they have it, then they can buy at a certain price, and when they close, one after another, and then MOAS is over after the last one covers. Now, it doesn't matter what the price is. Now, if MOAS is going to be even more violent, then we need to make sure that there are no shares available for these guys to buy back, because then the price will continuously keep going up by default and by force. Excuse me. Until the price is right and we decide that, okay, this is it, I like this price, I would let my shares go for this price. Now, whatever that price is, everybody's that's your decision. That's your own due diligence, and that's your own business. But like I said, if you're hoping for high numbers, that's what you need to have, or that's what needs to happen, or that's what needs to be done, is there needs to be no shares available, or as minimal amount of shares available on the market for them to buy back to cover. They can't cover, they still are obligated to cover. So the only way is by keep up in that price. You keep up in that price until it gets to the price or the amount that will not get everybody to sell at. So if that made any sense, guys, thank you so much. Please put your comments in the comments section. And once again, AB Investments, much love.